If you have a sibling, here's a question worth sitting with. Were you born first or second? Because according to the largest study of its kind ever done, covering over 10 million siblings, that one fact about your birth might be quietly tied to your risk for more than 150 different health conditions. Not your personality, not your intelligence, your actual physical and mental health. Let's get into what this study actually found, and, just as importantly, what it does not prove. For over a century, birth order has fascinated psychologists. Firstborns are responsible, the youngest is the free spirit, you've heard this. But most of those older claims were criticized for cherry-picking data or ignoring confounding factors like family income or parenting style. Then, in 2015, a landmark study by Julia Rohrer at Leipzig University tried to settle it properly, analyzing 20,000 children with rigorous controls. Her conclusion? Birth order has almost no effect on personality, and only a tiny effect on IQ, somewhere between 1 and 2.5 points lower for the youngest child compared to the oldest. Basically, the personality myth was busted. But that's not the end of the story. This new 2026 research, led by Benjamin Kramer at the University of Chicago, alongside researchers at Columbia, asked a completely different question. Forget personality. What about disease? The team ran 2 separate analyses to cross-check their results. First, they matched 1.6 million sibling pairs. But cleverly, by pairing a firstborn from one family with a secondborn from a different family, matched on sex, birth year, parental age, and the age gap between siblings, that trick helps cancel out the effect of parents simply treating their first and second kids differently. Second, they compared siblings within the same family across 5.1 million families, over 10 million people in total. Out of 418 medical conditions with enough data to analyze, 150 showed a statistically significant link to birth order. 79 were more common in firstborns. 71 were more common in those born second. So what's elevated in firstborns? The strongest signals were neurodevelopmental. Autism, Tourette syndrome, and even childhood psychosis showed up more often in the oldest child. Firstborns also had higher rates of acne, allergies, hay fever, and anxiety disorders. To be clear on scale here, Rohrer, who reviewed this study, points out the associations are modest. Firstborns, for example, showed only about a 3.6% relative increase in depression risk. That's a real signal in a huge data set, not a life sentence for any one person. On the other side, children born second showed a higher risk of substance abuse, with one figure from the study putting that risk about 19% higher than firstborns, along with shingles, gallstones, gastritis, and migraine. And here's a detail that makes the data feel less random. The substance abuse risk in secondborns actually shrank as the age gap between siblings widened. Same pattern with allergies in firstborns. The bigger the gap, the weaker the effect. That kind of dose-response pattern is exactly what makes scientists take a finding seriously. So why would birth order do any of this? 3 explanations are on the table. 1, the friendly foe hypothesis. Younger siblings get exposed to more germs early on from an older brother or sister, which may train their immune system toward tolerance. Less hay fever, fewer allergies. 2, maternal immune shifts. A mother's immune system reacts differently with each successive pregnancy, which some researchers think could subtly alter fetal brain development, a possible piece of the autism puzzle. 3, and this one's fascinating, diagnostic substitution. Since firstborns tend to score very slightly higher on IQ tests, the same underlying symptoms might get labeled ADHD in a firstborn with average intelligence, but labeled intellectual disability in a secondborn scoring lower. Same behavior, different paperwork. Worth noting too, other researchers, like Ray Blanchard at the University of Toronto, argue the picture changes further once you factor in the sex of each sibling, not just their birth order. So, what should you actually take from this? Not that being a firstborn or secondborn determines your fate. Rohrer's own warning is the most important line in this entire story. We only ever live one version of our birth order. We never get to see how our life would have gone in the other position. These are population-level patterns, not personal predictions. But it does tell us something genuinely new. Where older theories about birth order and personality mostly fell apart under scrutiny, this disease-focused data held up, and rigorously so. Biology, it turns out, may remember your place in the family line more than your personality ever did. If this made you rethink your own spot in the family, drop a comment, firstborn or secondborn, and let's see which side shows up more. See you in the next one.